that you live your lifestyle, you worship this idea. And that's kind of what he's debating, right? And then you can go dive into it to explain your point. But once again, the foundation is nebulous. So because they can't agree on words, because he keeps getting you to define these words that are already pretty much well defined in the English language.
Yes.
Why the f we have to do this?
We're never gonna get to your point.
Yeah. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. I am your host, David So, and we have Ed Park, VP, aka Manga Miata here.
What's up?
Listen here, everybody. We're going to talk a little bit about this. It's probably already hot and kind of past, but because last week I had to do a solo pod, I just moved into a new spot. A lot of shit to do. Next podcast, I'll talk about it. It's pretty insane. But either way, recently, obviously the whole politics thing is going on, but there's been like this really, I don't want to say weird, but a religious resurgence.
Yes.
Which is insane, right? And it's going towards Christianity. Because for so long, I felt anyways, it was going backwards. People were walking away from religion.
Yeah. Do you remember like these big rallies in high school, like the Promise Keepers and whatever rallies? Did that come around to your city too?
No.
Oh, where it's like these big Christian events, like in arenas, like arena tours and stuff, to have people rededicate their lives to Christ and to try to get their friends to be Christians.
Oh, that's crazy.
Right? And the reason being because they're Christian sociologists and whatever, looking at the numbers like, hey, we're dwindling. And in fact, even in Korean churches, they were calling it the Great Exodus. Right?
Oh.
So the rallies that I went to, like I said, that was early 2000s. They were like, yo, our cultures, there's a shift, there's a change. People are turning away from God, from religion, from all of that. And then the scary part was like the world numbers of the Muslim population started rising, right? And so, yeah, culturally in the United States, that was kind of the effect that it was having. But by the time it was, I think the 2010s, it was just, let's not talk about that church shit.
Yeah.
Let's not do that church shit here. Or
that crazy fall off was very interesting to see, because specifically in my life, I know a lot of the people that I grew up with that went to church, they no longer attend church, right? And for them, every time I talk to them, the same conversation was for them is like, after they left the community, they kind of, in more or less words, is that they found their own identity away from the religiosity of what they grew up as a kid, right? Yeah. Because for us, it was a cultural thing. We had to go to church. There was no choice. There was like, it was like,
don't go, you're gonna get you're
dead.
Oh, so you want to go to hell?
Yeah, I had no idea. You want to see Jesus Christ right now?
Yeah.
The crazy thing is, like, as a kid growing up, I remember the type of fights my parents would have before going to church in the car.
God.
Just screaming at each other, right? Like, just fucking yelling at each other. Death. There's my mom telling her that she's going to kill herself right now. One time I remember my mom, she literally opened the door on the freeway. And she was like, I'll fucking do it. I'll kill myself right now. And then, I'm in the back. Jesus loves me. Like, yo, we're on the way to church, bro. Yeah. Are you guys fucking insane?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the type of, like, what we grew up with in terms of, like, no matter what was happening, we always went to church. It doesn't fucking matter. You're going to church.
Yeah.
And if they ask, do you believe in God? You say, yes. If you don't, you'll see him very soon. You know what I mean?
Right.
But anyways, to go back on topic, Jordan Peterson was on the Jubilee channel. They've been doing this thing that has been really hot, which is to get
1 versus 20.
Yeah, 1 versus 20 on one belief, and the person who is the one gets to dictate what the subjects are. So they'll make a statement and they debate the topics, right? So Jordan Peterson has come on. Now, Jordan Peterson is a very, very popular clinical psychologist. He got super popping over COVID during the time, like in Canada, they had this whole woke culture thing from, what other people are saying. I don't know anything about Canada, but they tried removing him, getting rid of his credentials, all this other stuff for basically his way of academia, right? Or his personal beliefs. He blew up. He was on this BBC interview, I believe, Big Black Cock, BBC interview with
British Broadcasting
Cock.
Okay, cock.
So he starts debating this woman.
Yeah.
who is a reporter, right? And she's doing a lot of these gotcha questions. And eventually in this whole conversation, Jordan Peterson does a gotcha on her and she stumbles over her words. And she goes, well, I don't know what to say here. It blew him up. That's how he got on my radar.
Well, but you get my point. You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on. And that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and I'm just trying to work that out. I mean,
hello, darkness, my old friend.
Right. And it was the first time I got to see somebody debate somebody else on a subject that they were being grilled on, and he handled it masterfully. Didn't get angry, didn't show emotion. When there was like ridiculous statements that were being said, he would just laugh it off and he would continue his conversations. Now, in the 1 versus 20, it's him versus 20 atheists, right? And the original title of this video was one Christian versus 20 atheists. And if you watch this video, before you listen to the rest of this podcast, if you want, go watch this video and then come back to this so you guys could be a part of this discussion. Because this is for me, it's twofold. There's two things that are fascinating and we'll get into it. But either way, one versus 20, later on you see the title change. It just says Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists. And that shit was like very interesting. I watched the video. I get why now.
He refuses to proclaim if he's a Christian or not. But he is like the most forefront apologist for belief, right? But at the same time, there's no fucking way that the modern American Christian understands what Jordan Peterson is even saying either.
I don't think he understands what the fuck he's saying.
I think because he doesn't want to answer, I finally understand what you meant by answering a question with a question.
That's what I was talking about.
What do you mean, believe? You know?
This
fucking Kermit the Frog. What do you mean? What is it about?
This guy, he would sit there, and here's one thing I do want to address before I even say this. I hate the people in these comments who are over intellectualizing what he's doing and making it seem that the regular audience is so stupid that we don't understand what he's saying, right? That is such an annoying comment to make when a majority of people who are also, by the way, just as smart or smarter than you are telling you that what he's saying is nonsense, and they break down the reasons why, and then your response is too dumb to know. You sound like a Korean parent, dude.
Yeah.
That's what you sound like to me. And it pisses me off. So he'll do this thing where I hate this shit. It's like there are certain things in casual conversation that you don't need to define every single word because a majority of people understand what you mean, right? Yeah. Like the common word believe. He goes, do you believe in Jesus? Why? What do you mean? Why do you believe? What is believe? Well, there's a presupposition of what the word believes mean. Yeah. What is faith? Faith. It's like, dude. I'll fucking kill you right now.
Are you saying that within this room right now, we haven't even established what belief means?
Yeah.
Then we're going no fucking where.
Yeah.
Okay? I hate that. You're wasting your own time.
He's wasting his time. Our time. The funniest thing about this shit is like, well, I wouldn't say funny. To me, it was like disappointing. The Jordan Peterson that I saw during COVID, that one video, is vastly different from the one that was in this video.
Oh, yeah.
He was angry. He was annoyed. He was pissed. He wasn't open really for conversation, right?
Yeah.
He would take things.
He was combative.
Very combative. And he would take don't put words in my mouth.
And he's like, but that's what you believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
You would say shit like that. You're putting words in their mouths too then, bitch.
Dude.
I fucking hate that.
He was doing everything that he was chastising, like they're little children, chastising them I was like, and then I went to this thought of, is Jordan Peterson in a mental decline? Because he has to be.
Yes, he has been, actually.
Okay.
Because he actually had to, like, get away from the public eye for a good while because he had a dependency on these anti-anxiety medications that he started taking once his fame rose.
Yeah.
Right? And not to blame him, but as his fame rose, this scrutiny against him rose.
Yeah, of course.
Exponentially. And the way people handle that is different for so many people. What happened was he started taking anti-anxiety meds and it fucked up with his mental.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So he went away for a while. And this is his coming. Ever since he came back, I think whatever he battled through, it's like, well, then I'm going to be just as combative. I'm also going to be, it's like fight fire with fire now, because he's like, why did I allow these people to treat me this way?
Yeah.
But instead it's like, now it's his defense shield and it's up all the time, I think.
Yeah, it was a weird, he's wearing like these weird suits too, where they're like half this suit, half the other suit. I'm like, bro, did you do shrooms?
This feels like it, yeah. Like, right. It sounds like he had an awakening of a sense of, here's shit that matters and here's shit that doesn't. It's like, it matters that you put in the effort to dress yourself, right? It matters that, like, that's what he believes.
Yeah.
But I think to him at the same time, it doesn't matter what you wear. Did you put in the effort, like, to be presentable? Whatever. Yeah. Like, I feel like that's his vibe. Because I remember when I was listening to his book, it's like, this guy showed up high to a dinner and he was like, what a buffoon. I was like, oh, is that not cool?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if he's a single guy doing his own thing and whatever, and it just made him disgusted at this guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so he has this standard of being, of living and addressing things. But when he was attacked, like, you could even see, there's a funny meme, because the first thing a man should do to, I don't know, be a man or whatever, is like, make your bed and clean your room.
Yeah.
And then there's a photo of him in his room and it's dirty as shit. And he looks like like mentally fucked up, you know? So it's like, he's not, what do you call it? Bulletproof to the attacks that the internet, throws at him. So that's why I think he's become more asshole-ish.
Yeah, he's literally lost his mind to me. And like, I think one of the things that fucking made me laugh so hard was, number one, I actually didn't like this kid either. He came at Jordan Peterson super hard.
The blue shirt kid?
Yeah, he was like, you're absolutely nothing. You know, that kid was weird. Like, he
maybe
sat
I missed
down,
that part.
Well, so he sat down and then he goes, Jordan Peterson, after having, this kid's coming, he's like wide-eyed and he's like shaking. He goes, well, you're saying this is it? His energy's very off. And then Jordan Peterson didn't like the way he was speaking. He goes, you're really something, you know that? And he goes, well, you're really nothing. And then Jordan Peterson just goes, we're done here. I'm done. I'm done talking to you. And he kind of leaves the conversation. And the commentary is that, Jordan Peterson lost his debate. I'm like, no, he actually didn't on that part, because there was no debate.
Yeah.
There was a conversation that started with a lot of animosity and hate, and it got derailed once the insults started kind of getting hurled at each other. And I don't like that. Like, what's the point of this shit?
That's the thing about listening to Jordan Peterson, is that you have to jump through hurdles, right? To really hear what he's saying.
Yes.
Because even though he has a good point, it's the fact that you have to jump through his vocabulary. You have to jump through his attitude. You have to jump through his stupid games. He's like, I don't play games. And
yeah.
Like, you play games all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Because when clearly through these conversations, his definition of God is something different.
Yeah.
Than what these people are saying by God. Hey, when we talk about God in this room, aren't we talking about the monotheist guy Abrahamic God we're all thinking about? And he's like, well, I meant to him like a stream of consciousness. And bro, can we talk about this thing we're talking about?
They can't. It's so hard to even debate him in this context, because what they're debating is such a nebulous idea. It doesn't, and it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
We are talking about this singular God. We are talking about God from the Bible, the canological Bible.
Yeah.
Why does this have to, and he keeps doing that thing where he asks the questions, because he goes, I'm trying to gain common ground. No, you're trying to confuse the other person who's debating you and the audience.
Yeah.
It's so much word salad. It was pissing me off. And no, people, we do understand the words he's saying, but it's so ridiculous. It ends up not making sense. He's speaking in long paragraphs of nothing. And then when they keep asking, like, there was one guy who kept saying, can you explain to me what this, can you go back to the prompt? Let's go back to the prompt. And he goes, I am on the prompt. And he's like, I'm explaining myself. And I'm like, no, you're not, dude. You are absolutely not. This is a weird debate tactic, or your brain is so far fucking gone now, you're just talking to yourself and rambling, and you don't even realize it.
That's the weird thing about Jordan Peterson's fame, is that the other side of that is science communicators.
Yeah.
Right? And that could be Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye the Science Guy, or any number of people you see, right? But the thing is, aside from Bill Nye, we're talking about astrophysicists, and quantum theorists who are our major science communicators like Brian Greene and such. But they say it so simply to us and they communicate it to us. They don't tell it at us condescendingly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're trying to tell people as a communicator first and foremost, like, are you telling people, yes, there is a God, you're just too stupid to understand it?
Yeah.
And it makes all these dumb redneck Christians be like, yeah, we're too smart.
Exactly.
That's why we're believers, because we're smart and you're the dumb one.
Yeah. There's this point too that he was trying to make it was one of his debate topics. It was something along the lines of, even if you're an atheist, you worship something, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something that's very simply stated and can be very simply explained, right? Which to a certain extent, I do agree with what he's saying.
Same. I was going to say the same thing.
But the way that he was speaking and trying to defend his point made me not believe his statement. It's like, you did yourself a fucking disservice.
Yeah, I don't think you understand it either.
Yeah, he goes, there's a hierarchy. It's like, why are you even explaining it like that? It's simple. It's a very simple idea, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, there is something that you follow in life, right? Which guides you somewhere. And that to me is a level of worship. And what worship means is this: because you don't worship this deity, it doesn't mean that you're not worshiping the way that you live your lifestyle. You worship this idea. And that's kind of what he's debating, right? And then you can go dive into it to explain your point. But once again, the foundation is nebulous. So because they can't agree on words, because he keeps getting you to define these words that are already pretty much well defined in the English language.
Yes.
Why the fuck do we have to do this?
We're never gonna get to your fucking point.
Yeah. I was getting so mad. And I'm like, this is not the Jordan Peterson that I saw in that video like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's why it goes back to the conversation. Is he high? Did you do shrooms? What is this?
He could be on ketamine too,
Oh my God.
I mean, he doesn't behave the way Elon does, but anti-anxiety, something he needs help for that. So when his anxiety pops up and then everyone has a response and it's just to be combative, then that's it, I guess. But the funny thing is, did you see the one atheist versus 20 Christians?
No, I never saw the other way around.
So the other dude I've been following for this past year because I love his shit. I can't recall his name, but he's the Cosmic Skeptic is his YouTube name, but I think his name is like Alex Connor.
Does he speak in kind of a monotone, almost like Lex Friedman?
Yes, and he's English.
Yeah.
Love his shit because he's not an asshole.
Yeah.
I might not believe everything, right? But when he has conversations with biblical scholars, he's asking genuine questions. He's not trying to disprove a God, even though he is an atheist. And he's constantly talking about, let's talk about this story in the Bible, and let's talk about this idea of this, or or what Jesus is exactly in history, And that's so much more informative than sitting there and pretending like you understand what Jordan Peterson's trying to say.
I know.
And being a pseudo-intellectual. Yeah.
Define define A. Define. I was like, bro.
Define this debate.
I want to sock you in the mouth and take your lunch money so bad, dude. Like, you fucking dweeb, man. Like, you shut the fuck up, bro. Like, how did you... Like, I don't know much about him, right? Like, I've heard, like, certain excerpts of his, just enough to make fun of him on this podcast a few times, just because I like his voice. Like I said, therapist Mickey Mouse. You know what I mean?
Prepubescent.
Yeah.
Kermit the Frog.
Miss Piggy, please. But he just, like... I don't... You can like some of the things that he says, but you can also hate some of the stuff too, right? Mm-hmm. I think when you see somebody who has like a cult following and they defend him so hard, let's say even if I did really like him, right? I can't defend this garbage.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's not congruent to the person that I think that he's supposed to be, right? Because he's on the side of logic. In what universe was that a logical conversation or even a logical route to go into a debate, right? Because it didn't even seem like he was willing to debate because of the one thing when I forgot what he was saying to the kid, but he basically said, he said this phrase. He goes, "Are you a Christian? I thought I was here to debate a Christian." And he goes, "I could be, but I don't have to tell you."
Any time.
What the fuck are you talking about?
That's a thing that's been happening, is that my Christianity is private. And I say, "Oh, I'll see you in hell." The point is, you're not supposed to be private about that shit,
Yeah.
That, I don't know, but this is like the 4th time I've heard it. That's none of your business if I'm saved or not. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, fuck you. That's not how it works.
I just talked to somebody recently who, what did I type? In a DM, I just kind of wrote something. I was like, "Oh yeah, man, have a good day. Yo, God bless," whatever, right night. And then it was to a homie. He goes, "Oh, I saw your podcast. I thought you don't believe in God. Why would you say God bless?" I was like, "That's not what I said." I said, number one, if you want to get into it, God bless is a colloquial phrase, right? So for you, when I say bless you, do you get mad? You know what I mean? I was like,
excuse me, I'm an atheist.
I was like, is this your gotcha moment? You know what I mean? I was like, do you get mad at everybody who celebrates Christmas but doesn't believe in Christ?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Where is this conversation going? He was like, I just think it's kind of weird. I was like, you believe in God? He goes, yeah, I believe in God. I was like, have you read the Bible? Because I was like, and before you answer and lie to me, I know you haven't. I was like, have you read the Bible? He goes, no, I haven't. Then don't talk to me.
Yeah.
He goes, you don't have to read the Bible to believe in God. I was like, that's fucking crazy, because like I said before, if that is the literal word of God and you do not care about it, you do not care about Christ.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me.
And here's this whole argument, especially, like, I feel like the first half was this argument, like, this country and we as a people in a modern Western society, whether we like it or not, is based off a Judeo-Christian morality.
Yeah.
I hate that argument.
Yeah.
Because it's just not true.
Yeah.
Do you find that like anywhere near true? Like, how are we? What are we talking about? The 10 Commandments? The 10 Commandments, it's so simple. Anybody can apply it to their society.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I've never been asked that question. And I feel like I've said it before that it does seem like it's based on a Judeo-Christian value because of like the religious movements that happened in the United States. Mm-hmm. But the founding of this country was people leaving for religious persecution, right?
Yeah.
Or with the way that religion was ran, and they came here this way. And maybe those values that came from there was still stuck around here.
For me, in my head, it's always been because of the monarchy, right? And you say, why? Well, then why do I have to give my taxes to the king? Because it's my God-given right.
Yeah.
Right? God made me king, and now you must, right? And at this point, Europeans were like, well, what if I don't believe in your version of God? And so we have the Puritans and the Quakers and them types, you know?
You know what's interesting too? Like when I like the departure from Japanese and like the way like America was founded, it's so weird how the departure went this way. And what I mean by that is that flee from religious persecution, fuck you, king, you're not anointed by God, I don't need to give you this shit, I'll go over here, we'll go this way. But the Judeo-Christian values that they had, right, still stuck around in the United States. After Japan lost the war, right, they believed that the emperor was ordained by a deity, right? Yeah. And so after they lost, you know, like you said it before,
God is dead.
God is dead. They didn't have that here, which is so weird, right? It went two separate ways.
Yeah.
The death of God from that war was like, oh, God is fucking ridiculous. Like, that's impossible because if you were ordained by God, how did we lose this war? That doesn't make any sense. But over here, it's stuck.
It's like, you're only 5'4"? Like, what? That's the importance of that picture with John MacArthur and the Emperor was like, hey, here's your God. I'm taller than him.
That's such a good roast, dude. Yeah, but if you guys, like, I'm so curious to see what the audience thinks about that Jordan Peterson debate, right? And I don't think he did anybody a service at all, right? If his point was to prove that God exists because of these factual things that are happening, the way that he was arguing his points, or you could, even if you could call it arguing, right, or even debating, he did a disservice to Christianity. He confused us even more.
Yeah, here's his claims. atheists reject God, but they don't understand what they're rejecting. And that was frustrating because to start off, you're saying, oh, we don't know what we're rejecting, as if atheists, like I said, once again, are too dumb to understand, like that they don't understand God that they're rejecting.
The first guy that was talking to Jordan Peterson, the one that was a Catholic priest, or he was going to that route.
Yeah.
Dude, he is so good at debating. Like, he knows his shit.
Yeah.
That shit was nuts. And just Jordan Peterson could not deal with the stuff that he was asking. It was
So
pretty
he
amazing.
did the runaround.
Yeah.
And then he claimed to morality and purpose can't be found within science. I would agree a bit, because in my, like, what do you call it, apostate journey, I kept finding that there's no purpose in anything.
Yeah.
You know, in reality, like, purpose is a subjective thing you have to create for yourself.
Yeah.
Thing, right? Because when you say, what is the purpose of life? And I don't know, we're just here randomly, man. We're just here.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody worships something, including atheists, even though they might not know it. Yeah, we all know that. Anime cons prove that. You know, Comic Con.
Yeah.
That's a giant revival session.
Yeah. That just smells a little more.
Yeah. Let's see. Atheists accept Christian morality, but deny the religion's foundational stories. Like, and that's one of those things I had to argue with, like, where I felt the overarching thing, if you want to take away the religious part of what Jesus is trying to teach and just philosophically, it's like altruism.
Yeah.
You know, and reconciliation type of relationships.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's not, you know, exclusive to Christianity.
Yeah.
I don't think Christianity has a monopoly on altruism.
Yeah.
I think that's just an evolutionary trait within us as humans. Like, have you, like, even anthropologically, like, there have been archaeologists that found the grave of this, she's a girl for sure, but she had like a disfigured leg.
Mm-hmm.
She was born with a disfigured leg. Now, out in nature, they assume this body is probably anywhere between like 50,000 to 100,000 years old. Back then in nature, that this girl cannot survive on her own.
Yeah.
Right? But she looked to be about, you know, close to her teens to her 20s, which means for a decade plus, other people were taking care of her.
Yeah.
People had to carry her to go where she goes. And then this makes me tear up now every time I bring it up. She had cavities. That means people kept feeding her sweets.
Oh, wow.
You know?
I wonder what her... Yeah. Because if she wasn't buried with anything that was adorning her, that means she was just a regular person.
But no, she was adorned with shells and like jewelry and all these things. And like they believed to be like a staff, like cane-ish thing to help her walk. But mostly they believe people carried her, people fed her, right? Now you tell me evolutionary wise, like that's us humans.
Yeah.
We don't, I'm pretty sure they didn't know much about Jesus or God back then.
Yeah.
But naturally, this is what they did. And this person lived through infancy and was protected from the wildness and, you know, and predators.
You know what's interesting too about the one of the prompts that you stated, which was that Jordan Peterson was trying to argue. He was trying to argue that, well, I won't say argue, but the debate topic was, even if you don't believe in God, you still worship something. Why is that even a debate topic? Like,
I think we all get it.
I think the atheist could have came in and be like, "Yep," and then walked away. Like, I don't think that's a hard concept to understand. I believe that.
Crazy at a Katy Perry concert or a Marilyn Manson concert or a Hillsong concert. That's the same kind of worship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you worship your way of life, which is a life without the existence of God.
Yeah.
There you go. Who cares?
Yeah, there you go.
Who cares? Like,
there's a TV show called American Idol.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We get it, dude.
Because like if I was there and I sat down, I'd been like, "Yep, who cares?"
Yeah.
I just got up and walked away.
Yeah, it's just smarter than that. Why did anyone need to? Maybe because people felt personally digged. There are some atheists who believe, "Oh, I don't worship anything," without realizing, "Oh, but you know, you're a mega fan of this."
Yeah.
So.
Because even if Jordan Peterson says that that's what you do and you don't believe it, I think from an atheist perspective or point of view, you could entertain that thought and be like, yeah, maybe. Yeah, you might be right. But I don't believe in this deity, and that's how I separate those definitions.
Yeah.
And then the conversation ends. Like what I don't understand why that was even like something that had to get heated.
Yeah. I don't know.
Get it.
We're, like I said, we're in a place though is that Christianity is on a rise, and perhaps a lot of atheists look at it as an anti-intellectual movement, which I don't think is a fair argument, which is probably why they brought Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
But it's always important for Christians in a debate to bring up the fact that, hey, educated people believe in a God too, right? And I don't, and because I've also seen Bill Maher be like, you're a neuroscientist and you believe in God?
Yeah.
And like, yes, motherfucker. Like when you say it condescendingly like that, it just makes me hate you.
Yeah. The approach is very condescending. Yeah. And I don't think anybody likes it. And that's kind of like the story of this whole like debate. It was just, and not from the side of a majority of the atheists, right? They seemed very open to conversation and learning his point of view in terms of let's talk this out, right? Because I feel like sometimes with the first group of atheists that I saw, it was almost like they were trying to walk Jordan Peterson through what they walked through to get to their point of thought.
Yes, because they actually had to go through a fucked up journey. You know, going through the journey of finding out whether God is real or not, and you're battling denial, disbelief, and you actually face these questions you would never ask yourself as a Christian.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a certain level of self-awareness, thought, intelligence to have to get you there.
Yeah.
And to have to find those answers through different philosophers in different religions, they went through a fucking journey.
Yeah.
Now, when you watch the one atheist versus 20 Christians, it makes me a bit embarrassed. Those are some of the dumbest motherfuckers I've ever seen.
The average Christian, though, or let's not even say the average Christian, the average religious person who's, I would say, like if we're talking about a game character, their worship bar is high as fuck. Right. Their belief is high as fuck. But when it comes to the actual knowledge and the application of the religion, is damn near zero.
They were just born into it.
Yeah.
They were born into believing all of these things, but the story is as completely true.
Yeah.
And now in this age where they're at, it's like, are you telling me my parents and my community and my neighborhood and everybody lied to me? They can't face that.
Yeah.
They can't face that. It's like, no, Moses did split the ocean.
Yeah.
It's literal.
There's
so many literal, biblical people.
But the interesting take too that I saw from that, or when I hear from something like that, or when I do see these videos, is that how come the people who have the highest amount of religious fervor, how come you don't care enough to do the research and have the understanding that these atheists who don't believe in what you believe have? Like that has always irritated me a little bit, right? And because I was a part of that. And then when I had I want to call it an awakening because I'm still figuring things out.
It's just more like a deconstruction.
Yeah, like I'm like, oh, I'm a little ashamed of myself, right? Because I was in a position where I thought that I could tell people how to live a certain lifestyle, a lifestyle that I didn't even know about, And it's kind of embarrassing,
Yeah.
And when you're kind of faced with that reality, I don't know if it necessarily takes you away from Christ, but it should help you reevaluate if you truly believe in the thing that you're trying to sell other people on, right? If you don't know it yourself, how can you be in a position to tell people that they don't know what they believe in? And it just never made sense. And that when that thought crossed my mind, it made me not reevaluate so much the religion itself, but it made me reevaluate myself as a person. I was like, oh, I'm full of shit. I kept telling people that I believe in God, but to Jordan Peterson's prompt, it's the other way around. I believe in a God that I don't know. Yeah. Which is which I wonder if like other people went through that moment too in their lives and how they dealt with it, right? For me, and I've spoken about on this podcast, I'm just going back to ground zero again. And it's going to be a long journey back, right? Because I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my journey was every time I was faced with like my mortality, so many of these things, all throughout my life, I kept doubling down on my faith.
Yeah.
And doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
You know, to make sure I believe, no, God is real, because I went through all this shit. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and to this day, I can't really explain the voices I hear in my head. You know, not voices, the voice.
Yeah.
You know, and therefore, like, I can't say there's a true entity.
Yeah.
Or whatever. There's some things I can't explain. And there's some things beyond science that I also believe.
Yeah.
At the end of science, there's like all these weird quantitative theories, and then there's God.
Yeah.
You know, and all the things, like, it's always going to be God until they figure it out.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
At the very least. Yeah.
Well, guys, that wraps up this episode of the Genius Brain podcast. You could catch Genius Brain every Sundays at 12 p.m. You could catch Ed at Ed Park VP and at Manga Miata for his car updates. Listen, if you guys watched the podcast with Jordan, not podcast, the it was
Jubilee show.
Jubilee show. It was like an hour long.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think. I'm very, very curious. It was a very interesting video for me. Write in the comments below. We'll see you all next time. Peace.
Peace.